So inflation data is out and well, it's still super boring. It's not doing nothing. I mean, gold price is dropping, but the more interesting news probably has a lot less to do with the Fed and a lot more to do with this other thing. Okay, so if you're wondering what's happening to the gold price rally over, say, the last week or so, assuming you're watching this around the time of release, well, it probably has a little bit to do with some early enthusiasm burning off. The markets rallied on that rumor of a Fed pivot, and gold price definitely went along for that ride. Well, traders might be starting to get tired of waiting now, and today's inflation data is probably one more factor in that exhaustion because it came in slightly above expectations. So somewhere in the back of every trader's mind is going to be that idea of a higher for longer rate hold. You have to think traders are getting bored of being bored at this point, because if you look at the CME FedWatch tool, you can see that expectation of a rate decrease beginning to slide. It slid quite a bit from where it was when the rumor of the pivot got its legs. So there has to be something more interesting than Fed policy out there right now, right? Well, I think so. Before we get back to it, if you're looking for precious metals, hit up SD Bullion. New customers even get gold and silver for spot. That's sdbullion.com/new. Okay, so first off, why do we care about all this? Well, I'm not so worried about tracking or predicting specific prices personally because I'm not in this to buy and sell. I don't trade physical metals, but I would want to know if we could expect a big move one way or the other. Is gold price going to shoot to 2,300? Is it going to fall to 17s? Well, ideally we'd have some kind of early warning sign on a move like that, and that's why I watch the economic data to begin with. It's not because it's fun. Now, we have seen gold prices begin to slide, and let's just call it what it is. That's simple consolidation. Those spikes above 2070, they weren't sustained. Those were tops, not floors. So a slide in gold price should not be a surprise. It's just another case of buying the rumor, because the suggestion of rate cuts is what kicked off the rally rather than any kind of actual event. And that event won't happen prior to late March at the soonest. So what we're looking at here is about 3 months of this waiting and guessing and being bored about Fed policy. That's at a minimum. So if you're expecting gold to take off at the start of a rate pivot, I guess you have 3 months of easy accumulation. That's the way that I see it anyway. I can't see any scenario where rates decrease and gold price decreases along with it. So if analysts are correct, this is going to be the cheapest part of the year for gold. So hold on here for a second because I'm going to throw a curveball into this. The most interesting financial news that we're looking at right now is not the inflation data. It's actually the SEC approval for Bitcoin ETFs in the United States. Now, why would that be interesting on a gold channel, right? Well, look at the buzz surrounding Bitcoin all of a sudden. Well, you don't even have to. I'll just tell you it's there. We have big capital inflows. We have trading volume, general individual activity. Bitcoin is hot today, and it has been since late October. Well, that activity and that spike in price has absolutely nothing to do with the wider economy. So we can look at Fed policy, we can look at these regional conflicts, we can look at inflation data, and we can tie all of that back to gold price. Now, Bitcoin, it has its own macro factors, and as far as I'm concerned, it just gives proof to this idea that Bitcoin and gold really are nothing alike. So why does it matter here? Well, I think it'd be really interesting to know how much capital that was previously earmarked for gold is now pouring into Bitcoin. There's no way to know, but people are pouring money in at the steep part of the current run on Bitcoin. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably have a strong preference for gold, and you might not care at all what's going on with Bitcoin, but if you were to look back at gold's price run, kind of stalling out in August of 2020 and Bitcoin continuing to rip, you have to wonder if capital was diverted from gold into Bitcoin. Now, I'm not saying any of this makes sense. I'm just pointing out that we have two very distinct asset classes that might be sharing capital pools. And if Bitcoin continues its climb for any extended period, who knows? Maybe it could impact gold price. So if we put that together, we're looking at 3 months of no macro news for gold, or at least nothing significant, and very significant macro news for Bitcoin. Now, the last few weeks, we've seen a slide in gold price, and that has to do with this rumor fatigue. Traders getting tired of riding that pivot rally. Now, with Bitcoin, who knows? You can see it shoot the moon like the fans are telling us, but we could also see a huge sell-off, selling the news. That's the other part of that, buying the rumor. That could come now that the SEC approval is in. Who knows? Now, when I started this video, I was really just looking for gold's reaction to today's inflation news. And if that's all you were wondering about, well, there really wasn't much to speak of. We have this rolling sideways movement, a few points below all-time highs, and I guess what I would be expecting at some point here is a dip before an actual rate pivot later this year. And we didn't get much of a factor in today's news. So I don't think that's going to have much to do with it. But who knows, this run on crypto could. So if you're looking for a hot trade, I guess I don't ever put gold in that category. But I do look for good times to roll savings into it. And since I expect the later half of the year to have higher gold prices than what we're seeing today, it does seem like a good time to be in on gold, even though I'm sure all of us are going to be hearing more and more about Bitcoin. So famous last words maybe, but I think the topic of Fed policy is going to be boring for the next few months. It's going to take something unexpected there to get my attention at least. Now, that doesn't mean gold prices won't swing. It just means I'm not on the edge of my seat waiting to hear what Jerome Powell has to say. So we're going to call it good there. Let us know what you're up to in the comments, whether you think Bitcoin is going to monkey with gold price and whether you're back to buying gold above $2,000 now that it's been holding. Let us know. And then while you're in the comments, be sure to hit that like button if you found any of this interesting. Be sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on if you'd like to see more on the topic. And if you're still here, thanks again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.